Hi, I'm Lori.
And I'm Kevin, and this is No Longer Ashamed.
We are survivors of childhood sexual abuse.
And we're here to share with you that if you're a survivor, you don't have to be alone.
Our logo is a salamander, and the reason is a fire salamander can survive a fire, and you have survived a fire.
We want to help you with your journey to healing and hope.
We are all survivors together, and we walk this journey together, and you are not alone.
By telling our stories, we are hoping that you will have the courage to share your stories as well and find your voice.
Because stories are so important, and for so long I know that I wouldn't tell my story, but when I finally shared my story, that's when I got my freedom.
And this is our journey and your journey to healing and hope. So come with us. So last week we talked about chatter, and we got to that through the podcast Hidden Brain, and he was actually talking about Ethan Kross's book Shift, which is actually about emotions. But when I looked for that book, I found out that he had a book called Chatter, and I was thinking, oh, that is something I need myself right now. And
this moment.
We talked about, how chatter affects us, and then we talked about how we can handle our chatter in our life. But there's more to it. There's also how we handle chatter with others, and not only how we can help others with their chatter, how we can support them, but also how others can help us with our chatter. I mean, we're not in this alone. We can't do this all alone. So it's important to understand also how to, when someone's going through times of chatter, you can generally tell when someone's just spiraling and they can use a little help. And so he talks about that as well, how to give support to someone who's going through chatter, and also how to receive it when you need help with your chatter. And not only just from other people, but from our environment, from out there, how we can handle chatter, not just by ourselves. So that's what I was looking at.
Can you give us an example of that?
Well, if you want to help someone, you have to consider when you're going through chatter, if you're reaching out, you want help emotionally, you want support, you want someone to help you feel better, you want someone to acknowledge and help you with what you're going through, but also you want help understanding how to handle this chatter, what you can do, what they can help you with as far as how to cognitively, not just emotionally, but cognitively, the things you can do to manage your chatter. And so, there's a lot of different ways, just like last week we talked about 11 different things you can do to handle your own chatter. But to help someone emotionally, it's really good to acknowledge what they're going through. And again, a lot of the things he talks about are things we've talked about. We just haven't kind of bundled them all together in this. And so it's funny because it really, one of the things I liked about this and reading about this is it supports what we've talked about. It kind of acknowledges what we've talked about in handling issues. And that's what we call them, issues. But a lot of the issues come from chatter.
Mm-hmm.
And which is often that tape we have in our head that tells us, oh, you're no good, you're never going to be able to do anything, or you can't handle texts or phone calls because you don't know what to say. That's my tape. So to support someone else, you got to recognize they have needs as far as emotional needs and also cognitive needs, steps they can do, things they can do. And part of it is also recognizing whether or not they're reaching out for help and they want you to help them, or they're just blowing off stink and they just want to let it out, and they're not necessarily asking for help as well. And that's one of the ways you can help, is just being there and being that sounding board for them.
Yeah, you mentioned validation, and to me, that is the most important thing, because when somebody validates
Mm-hmm.
what you're going through, it doesn't mean they even have to say anything, but except like, oh, that's hard.
Yeah, like
Or
that
agree.
woman at the thrift store that said, "Oh, that's so hard."
Yeah.
And that's that emotional validation, just recognizing you're having hard emotions.
Mm-hmm.
I recognize that validation can be a lot.
And like you said, they may not be asking for advice. And it's so easy to give unsolicited advice.
Hmm.
I try really hard not to, but I know I do, especially with family. And I don't like it when I say something and suddenly somebody's telling me what to do about it when maybe I was just saying, my eyes are kind of blurry today. Oh, have you gone to this side? I'm like, no, I've got something on my contact. Like, we're not always looking for advice. And
Sometimes, yeah, you just want to talk about you're dealing with something.
right. And so recognizing the cues as someone, if you're someone that wants to help, is this a time to listen, to validate, to give advice? And the best way to know is to ask.
Hmm.
Would you like
Yeah,
some advice? And if they're like, oh, yeah, but you can see no, then just take the no.
yeah.
Trust that wherever they are is where they need to be. And also, there's this place of codependency where we want to help so much that we'll start doing for them. And we
Hmm.
have to be cautious of that too. Just because we went through it and we know what to do, we still need to allow people their processes.
Yeah, yeah. And also, there's ways you can help people when they're not actually asking for help, but you can support them in ways that still support them. And I
Mhm.
mean, you can like if they're having a hard time, they're juggling all these things, you can offer to help them with something that's adding more stress to their lives on top of this chatter that's going on. And or you can maybe ask them if they want to go do something with you, do an activity, kind of get their head out of that space, go
Mhm.
for a walk, walk the dogs, do something you do with them a lot, go out and watch a game, stuff
Mhm.
to distract them. There's ways of supporting them without necessarily that push of, oh, I'm going to support you now.
Mhm.
Some people ask for it, and that's when they need it and they want it, and it's helpful to be there for them, to offer that validation, to offer the support. But sometimes they're not, but you could still support them in ways that you can talk around them
Mhm.
or talk around their problem, as far as you can talk about it, but not talk about them. So if they're struggling in their family and things are spiraling because their kids are out of control, you could say, it's so hard. I mean, so their teachers are so stressed out and parents are so stressed out. I don't know how people do this. You can kind of talk around it to get them out of there, and you're giving them that perspective that they're not stuck in this, they're the only ones.
Yeah, I was with my family over the weekend and we've had some pretty big issues. I mentioned over a year ago about my niece and her head injury, and there's been some other things. And being with my brother and sister in law, some things came up, and my sister and I were just like, man, we can't imagine how you're dealing with all this. And they're like confused and they're like, well, it's really hard and it's really awful. And we're like, no, it is really hard and awful. And you've been doing it on your own. And we just want you to know we see you,
Yeah.
we recognize. And it was surprising how surprised they were that we didn't minimize it, that we were like, oh my gosh, this is huge. and
Hmm.
and it just really again affirmed how important it is to validate people and what they're going through.
Yeah, and just be there for them when they are
Mhm.
spiraling. And it doesn't always, I mean, we can't always give the support they're needing, but sometimes just being there and wanting to help them, even if
Mhm.
what you say or what you're doing, they're not accepting, at least you're trying, at least you're acknowledging and making them realize that you are there or you're trying to be there for them. That's a lot.
Yeah. And, we both like the show Will Trent. And I think what we like about it is that he's struggling and people do try to help him. And he does get mad at him for trying to help and trying to be there. But what you find through the series is the friends that really care about him, that know how to show up, know how to give him his space, and,
Yeah.
know how to approach him, that they're not being codependent, but they're finding the way that they can be with him and as he's working through his issues.
Yeah, and I think that effort also shows that they matter to you. And also, you want to understand the ways that you can help them and learn. So you're paying attention to what is making a difference in their lives.
Hmm.
But like I said, we're not in this alone. We're all in this together. And sometimes even just reaching out to someone with physical touch, just if, as long as they're comfortable with it, they're not, just even just being there to support them, give them a Kleenex if they're crying, or offer to hold their hand, or just the little things can be a lot, just to make sure they know they're not in this alone. And that's
Well,
why.
and the thing we tend to do is isolate. And
Hmm.
so, we learn this in recovery is when you're going to isolate, when you're going to go underground, is to reach out to your sponsor, to reach out to someone, to have the conversation. But also, something you said about giving a tissue, those things are really great. But also, sometimes when somebody's showing great emotion and we do that, we disrupt the emotion. So
Hmm.
sometimes just allowing people to be sad and just don't do anything but be there and be kind.
Yeah.
Like our job isn't to fix, and that's kind of a natural tendency. But most of the support groups, the first thing they say is if someone's crying, don't touch them and don't give them a tissue. Let them have their pain, because the minute you do that, you disrupt it.
Yeah.
And we don't want to disrupt that. We want them to feel the feelings, but we don't run out of the room going, I can't deal with this.
Yeah.
We sit tight. But yeah, it's really easy to want to isolate. I do that. I struggle with that, and I work hard because being a single person, it's really easy for me to not be seen or heard for a long time if
Mm.
I'm having some struggles. And it's not like, oh, who will care? But sometimes it's just like, oh, I just want things to be really good. I don't want to come to my friends with, oh man. And but our friends want that. They want to care for us. They want to know what we're going through.
Yeah.
And it's not fair for us to decide, oh, I don't think Charnel and Kevin could deal with what I'm dealing with right now, so I'm not going to call them. No, I call and I go, this
Yeah.
sucks right now. And Charnel's always like, I'm going to go beat them up. Or, she's always so validating. And that a lot of times that's all somebody needs, is just to be like, oh, okay. Now I don't have to prove that I'm upset. I'm upset and it's okay and it's normal.
Yeah, that sense of being a burden can
Yeah.
be very isolating. You don't want to dump on people because you feel like that's all I ever do is dump on them. I'm just a
Or,
burden. Why
or
are they
they've got
even?
their own problems.
Or
I'm not going
yeah,
to do them. Yeah.
yeah. But when you're spiraling, reaching out can really help as far
Mhm.
as just even getting perspective. And
Mhm.
that's one of the things that we talked about. If the chatter's getting too much, one of the ways to deal with it is getting perspective, looking at it from a broader view. Like, how's this going to feel a couple months from now or a year from now? Is this really that big a deal in
Mhm.
the overall thing? And that's how sometimes reaching out, people can have perspective, and they can also say, look, this is really bad right now, but it's going to get better. It's going to.
Mhm.
That's the ways you can also kind of help others, is giving them perspective. I know it sounds bad now, but you've been through stuff. You've had issues before. You can get through this. You've done it. That
Yeah.
kind of thing, to support their.
Kind of help them see the journey. Like, look what you've already accomplished.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not the end.
Mhm.
Things will get better. Offer
And
that hope, offer that perspective, and not in a, what do you call it, Pollyanna
yeah,
way. Yeah.
toxic positivity.
Yeah, not that, but in a realistic way, because often when we are going through chatter, we lose our perspective because we're
Mhm.
so focused, and we need someone to kind of pull us out of that tunnel vision we have and realize, oh, wait,
Mhm.
this is going to get better eventually.
Yeah. And
There's ways I can deal with this, that
yeah.
eventually it'll be all blown over.
Well, and I think too with the chatter is hard because we'll get to a point where we're doing really well, and then it comes back and pulls the rug out from under us, and we feel like, oh no, I'm back where I started from, but we're never back where we started from because
Hmm.
it's so circular. Because I've done that. Sometimes I'm like, I'm 66 years old. Why aren't I perfect
Hmm.
at
Yeah.
keeping the chatter out? But it's just programmed in us, and it's what happens. And so when we are able to recognize it and then do whatever it is we need to do, we can get through it.
And that's the other part about he talks about is not only how to help others with their chatter, but how to receive help from others. How do we get through this with help?
That's part of the chatter. No one will help me. Nobody knows what
Mm-hmm.
it's like. And so I'm dealing with Medicare right now. Oh my.
Oh,
And so my sister, who now she's younger than me, but just got on it, and she has had a different experience. And so she called me and she goes, listen, there's somebody that I talked to that really helped me. And
mm,
I said, well, if it's a broker, I went to a broker and a broker said, do this. And I did it. And then everybody told me not to do it. And she goes, no, it's not a broker. And if you would let me help you and just get on the call with you and help you navigate, if not, that's okay. But sometimes you just need two sets of ears to hear what they're saying.
yeah.
And so she called her person, and it wasn't a broker, but it is an expert with Medicare. And she knows how to navigate all the things that I thought nobody knows because I've sat at Social Security, I've called Medicare, I've done all the things I'm supposed to do with zero results. And so it was like, am I willing to receive this kindness and not feel like, oh, my sister's
Just,
doesn't think I'm smart enough. No, she's
yeah.
like, can I just get on the call with you and we'll use this lady? And if you don't like it, you can just say, I hate her.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes receiving help is really hard. But boy, when we have to receive help, we become better helpers because we know then how hard it is
Yeah.
and how to be better, better givers.
Yeah, yeah, it's not always easy, and a lot of times when we're spiraling,
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to reach out or seek help because we don't want people to know we're spiraling. We're trying to hide it. I know
Mm-hmm.
for me, I hide it as much as I possibly
Yeah.
can because I'm embarrassed about spiraling, so I don't want anyone else to know, and so I'm not going to ask for help. So, but that's the big thing. Have people you trust that you can be vulnerable with, and a diverse amount of people. That's one of the things
Yeah.
is because sometimes we're spiraling about different things. Sometimes it's work. Well, if you have people at work you can trust and feel comfortable with and talk about with, that might be better than someone who doesn't know anything about your job or what you're doing. And if you're
So,
spiraling with your family, it
yeah,
might be important to, talk about with someone you feel emotionally and, you're really close with because
that's not family, maybe.
yeah.
Here's my chatter. Oh, I wish somebody would just come rescue me and help me. No, I don't want to be rescued. I don't want anybody telling me what to do. So it is that it's not only chatter, it's self-destructive because
Hmm.
there's a word for it, insatiable. It's like
Mm,
there is no answer.
there's no satisfaction.
There's no help and nobody knows and nobody understands. And that's why that technique we talked about this, is it true?
Hmm.
Is it true? Does nobody in the world understand? No, that's not true. And I don't want help. I don't want anyone bossing me around, but also I do want help. And if they give me the kind of help I can receive, if it's not the same thing I've already tried, then maybe I won't be so mad about it. But the chatter is kind of hopeless because it almost goes on both sides to find no solution.
Yeah.
And then it tells you there is no solution. And that's a dangerous place to
Yeah.
get.
It's almost intentionally arguing against
Yeah.
any way of getting out of it.
Yeah.
And that's why having people you can talk about it with is so important because they have perspective. They
Mhm.
can offer, emotional support, but they can also offer perspective and say, look, this isn't, new to you. You've been through this. You know you can get through this because you've already done it, or, whatever perspective they can offer that's separate from you so you can receive it with a new, oh wow, I don't have to listen to both these voices telling me all these, maybe they're both wrong,
Yeah.
and also even just physical support can be the thing that takes you out of your dive at that time. Even just having someone there, even it doesn't have to be a person. Like for me, my dogs are big physical support when I'm spiraling.
And they
That
are big physical
well,
beings.
especially Duckling. And but having that, just that comfort can be really important when you're feeling like nothing's working.
Mhm.
Sometimes sometimes just being able to reflect on and have comfort. One of the things he talks about is looking at photos. You know, if you're all alone, look at photos of someone you care about, someone you love, someone that's important to you, someone that cares about you, so you
Mm-hmm.
don't feel all alone. So you can reflect on what they mean to you and why, and that kind of gets you out of that stuckness.
Mhm. That's really true. It takes an effort, but my grandson, like all my grandkids love me, but my grandson loves Grandma Lala.
Mm-hmm.
He calls me, he sends me things. He's going to be 3. And I'll tell you, it is really something to be loved like that. And it's
Yeah,
nothing I've done to deserve it. It's not like I shower him with gifts. They're very, don't give him a bunch of stuff,
yeah.
but he loves me and he loves time with me. And when I think about that, it warms my heart because it
Mm-hmm.
is, we're not alone and we have a purpose. And when you think of children and grandchildren, I think
Yeah.
grandchildren are a little different because your own kids, you're so in the mix of it.
Uh-huh.
But that, our life matters. And if we get to a point where we are spiraling and we're having those thoughts, to call 988, to call
Yeah.
someone, to not, because when you get to that place where you feel like it is hopeless and there's no way out, it doesn't take much to push you over the edge. But if you get with someone within 3 minutes of being with someone
Yeah.
or talking with someone, your perspective begins to change.
Yeah. And that's what can slow down those voices, slow down that chatter
Mhm.
and help you to regain, your balance in your life.
And also, I was thinking about this the other day. I have a friend who has a sibling who's schizophrenic. And so he's in an institution, and now they've shut down all the institutions in our state. So he's in a group home and he has to have
Yeah.
special care. And I was just thinking about his life and how, yeah, what we went through is really awful. And I would never be one to say, oh, somebody else has it worse. But what I'm saying is, when I look around and I see some people that don't even have the option to get well, they're in a
Mm-hmm.
situation, or maybe they've had a brain injury or things where there is no option to get well. And I realize that's where I go to gratitude and I go, oh my goodness, I have the option
Yeah.
to ask for help. I have the resources. There is hope and healing for me.
Mm-hmm.
Where for some people, and I'm sure we all know somebody with a severe disability,
Yeah.
and so, I think it's, again, what is it you said? It's not our fault, but it's our responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's not, we didn't deserve this.
Mm-mm.
It's not our fault, but we do have the responsibility and the opportunity to get better,
Mm-hmm.
to handle our issues, to get to a place where we're thriving. And that's why perspective helps so much, is because we can see that, yes, we've been through all this stuff, but it's in the past and it's affecting us now, but we can change that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
there's,
because the things that we went through wired our brain.
mm-hmm,
Like the way we get love is like this, but then we grow up and we go, oh, I can get love in a different way. And so being able to use these tools that we're sharing is such a blessing.
yeah,
But there is hope. And even 20 years ago, they believed that the brain couldn't change. And now they talk about neuroplasticity and that we can change our brain and we can live a life that we can be, where we can find joy and happiness. And that is good news.
yeah, us old dogs still can learn.
Yeah, we can learn new tricks.
And so those are the ways of dealing with our chatter with others. But there's also ways of dealing with chatter with just our environment. And we've talked about this too, getting outside, going for a walk. They talk about how green spaces, how being around trees, being in nature, even if you can't go outside, you can look at it on your computer or look at photos of nature. That helps you get outside of yourself and focus on the world out there. That's something you can do that can help you get out of this chatter, is to recognize you're not isolated in this place of being lost. There is this wonderful world out there.
There's something when I was first recognizing that something was off, something I didn't know what it was, but I knew something was very wrong in my life. And I had thoughts of suicide. I knew that if I tried to drive off a bridge or a cliff, that I was so worried that I would get disabled and the people who had abused me would have to take care of me.
Uh,
So I never did it. But what always helped me when I got to those places, because I didn't have the tools, because I didn't understand, there
hmm
wasn't really the help then, and it was shortly after that I finally got into counseling. But what I would do is I would go and I'd make cookies and take them to my neighbors. I would go and
mm,
try and do something for somebody else,
huh,
because it like took me out of thinking about me, because I was so afraid I would do something terrible, and I was spiraling and there wasn't help, and I didn't even understand, oh, I could go to a counselor at that point. I was very young. I think I
yeah.
was 19.
Uh,
And so whenever I would get to that place, this was how I solved it, is I would go do something for somebody else. Now, that
mm.
may not be the answer for everybody, but it got me out of myself enough to get through. And really, it's just a short amount of time that we spiral usually. It
Usually,
doesn't
yeah.
last forever. So if we go, oh, I can get out of this.
Yeah, well, especially if you learn ways that help you. Like for me, physical activity is a huge thing, as you know, bike riding, but also just walking the dogs, being
Mhm.
outside, walking the dogs, but, bike riding, doing something that, and part of it is just being focused, so focused, because like mountain bike riding and downhill mountain bike riding, the kind of, you have to be so focused because if you're not, you're going to crash, and that intense focus, and a
Yeah.
lot of physical activities involve that. Even just, you don't have to be that intensely focused, but just like running or jogging or walking, as long as you're kind of paying attention to what you're doing and paying attention to the world around you, it takes you
Mhm.
out of that chatter for a while, and sometimes that's enough to give you perspective.
Yeah.
And also, one of the really good ways is to find a sense of awe in something. For me, often it's artwork. For me, it's often music. Sometimes music can get me out of that chatter. Just playing songs that just, I mean, there are some songs that just move me
Mhm.
emotionally, physically, everything. I'm just, and physical activities like dancing and
Mhm.
dancing with music, or, all those things that kind of slow down that chatter, but we can help us to get to that place of balance again. And
Yeah, moving, like if you're spiraling and you're sitting on the couch, get up, even if you move to a different chair. And
hmm
the thought, my chatter sometimes is like, I know I need to get out of this. I'm spiraling, and then there's part of me that's like, maybe I like this because it's
maybe I
so
just,
familiar.
uh-huh,
Maybe I'm just going to sit here and feel sorry for myself because it is familiar.
yeah.
And so it's like, okay, maybe I'll put the timer on and give myself 5 minutes, and then I have to get up and do something or move. Your brain forgets about what you were thinking about.
Yeah, another really good way is to organize or clean up.
I wish I had that one. My sister's got that one. I can't.
That could be really helpful because sometimes the clutter around us adds to the chatter, and then the chatter in our heads adds to the clutter because we
Oh,
we
yeah.
feel unable to move, and it becomes a spiral effect. And sometimes just cleaning up, organizing, writing down lists. We talk about this a lot. Writing down what our thoughts are, writing down what we're just writing it out. That helps it get out of our head and
Yeah.
get on paper. But yeah, I mean, all of these things, they don't necessarily work for everyone all the time. Some of them work better for others, some work better for, and some don't work at all for some people, but some things. So it's just find out the things that you can do to reduce that chatter and maybe divert it. Like we were talking about, chatter is really important. The way we talk, having that conversation in our head is very helpful at times. There's
Mhm.
a lot of good things that comes from what we talk about, and that imagination, that being able to have hope, have goals, all those things, and working towards those goals and talking about those goals in our head. And, all those things are really helpful. But when they become so negative all the time, it helps to find ways of interrupting that negative chatter.
Mm-hmm. And we always recommend get help, get a counselor, go to a
Yeah.
support group,
Yeah.
and the thing to
Even calling a crisis line to have someone to talk to about it.
yeah. And the thing is, tomorrow needs us. And, who would have thought we would be doing a podcast and that people would
Mm,
say, oh, this podcast made a difference. And
yeah.
just being able to talk about the things that people never talked about. We think of the older generation, which is us, that we
Yes,
were never
now.
allowed to talk about this. And so it's a freedom, it's a place for people, especially boomers, to be like, okay, I'm not going to stay silent anymore.
Yeah.
That it gives us the opportunity, and when we open our mouth and we speak our truth, things change.
Yeah. And we can change our brains with our mind.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps to just pay attention to what we're saying to ourselves and why, where is that coming from?
Yeah. Yeah. And even act surprised. What? Where? But, it goes to that unworthiness and all the things. And, all of that is a process, and learning to love and value ourselves, because we weren't valued then doesn't mean we aren't valued now and that we don't matter. Our voice matters. Our life matters. We
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah.
You matter.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
So that's it for today.
We are going to have a prayer time if you want to stick with us. If not, we believe in you.
We want to hear from you. We want to hear your stories.
If you like this podcast, please rate and review, because that's how other people can find us. And we really want to spread this message.
Father, I thank you that we are not alone, that you welcome us and you welcome our hurts, our chatter, our miseries, and you also welcome our rejoicing, our goals, our, the successes. You want to be there for all of that with us. And Lord, I just pray for anyone listening that they would hear your voice in their lives, and that they would feel your presence in their lives, and that you would be guiding them through the chatter and telling them the truth rather than the lies they've been taught their lives, that you would tell them that you do love them, you care for them, they are worthy, they are your children, and that they are loved by you, and that they do matter, Lord. And I just pray that you would be there for them in those times of chatter and crisis, that you can help them to calm those voices and find your light in their lives, your spirit in their lives. In your name I pray.
Father, I thank you that you are a good God, and that you love us. And even when we don't love ourselves, even when we don't feel loved, that's some of the chatter. Not even God loves me, but yet the truth is that you do love us. The truth is that you have made a way for us to get well, to be healed, to get help. And I just pray that we will seek you, that we will seek healing, that we will know that we are not defined by what happened to us, but that we are loved beings and we can love ourselves, even though it feels weird, that it is okay to love ourselves. And that is, to me, that feels like a gift back to you, when we can actually be grateful for how we were created and for who we are, and that we get to be part of this family. Thank you for all the work that is being done in the field now. More and more people are getting help, they're getting supported, and I just pray that you'll help us be aware and notice our chatter, and memorize verses when we're saying things that are ridiculous. I think of Philippians, whatsoever things are true and lovely and beautiful, think on these things, Lord, and help us to remember that. In your son's holy name, amen.
Amen.